Welcome back to the castle, everybody. I'm your secondary main host, doesn't matter, Sir Ivory Knight, and I'm here with Sh0ppo from Niners Gaming.
Hey,
And
how's it going?
yeah, Happy New Year, everybody, and Happy Christmas and all that jazz. Blah 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 blah. We're here with the next DevDiary. I think we'll get right into it. DevDiary multiplayer part 2. There's original part 1 that everyone can go check out. Did we do a summary on part 1? Did we have a stream for that?
I think we should do it just briefly to refresh our minds on the whole multiplayer part. Just a couple of comments here. So in the first multiplayer Dev Diary, that was Dev Diary 19, they laid some basic stuff about how multiplayer will work out and some basic information about how many players will be there. Currently it's 6, but I can imagine that it will be more later on. They talked about the game modes like cooperative, team play, and just directly against each other, free for all.
Yep.
There were different winning
Conditions.
scenarios or definitions, yeah, like the peasant rush or the war for goods or greedy kings. I recommend just check out the Dev Diary 19 because we don't want to get into part 1. We want to get into
part 2.
Dev Diary multiplayer part 2, which
And
we
it's not
are
fresh in our
about
memories, so
now.
it will be terrible if anybody asks
Yeah,
us anything
yeah,
on that.
yeah. So that's that, and continues here and gives us some pretty interesting information on how we can set up the game. And personally, for me, that was one of the most important parts for Knights of Honor 2, one of the most important things they should do. And they did quite a lot of things. So there is a lot of possibilities you can adjust to the game, which we will talk in a couple of minutes for starting it. We have, like in Knights of Honor 1, we have 3 predefined starting periods where we can choose from. And what else was there? You can set up the AI difficulty again. And especially for multiplayer, there are specific setups, like how much time does it take until you can get aggressive against each other, for example. Or there is one feature which I think is very neat. If you play with your friends and one of your friends gets defeated, then there is a possibility for him or her to come back into the game. There are some
That was one of the coolest
kingdoms.
features that
Yeah,
I think is really awesome, because I don't think Paradox games even have that. I think Hearts of
I don't
Iron
think
and
so too.
Europa don't
Yeah.
have any kind of system like that. So that will
Yeah.
be, in a sense, groundbreaking as a mechanic for video
And
games.
to not get completely carried away here, it's not, you cannot choose the strongest kingdom, probably. There is a set of kingdoms that will be available for you to rejoin the game. But anyways, I mean, if you get defeated for whatever reasons, you can step back into the game and finish it until somebody reaches the preset goal.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Also, you can adjust the espionage setting, because the devs mentioned
Yeah,
that espionage can get kind of out of hand.
yeah,
But if you want
very
that,
very powerful.
you can have it. So you can have it allowed. You can have it limited to like lesser actions that don't necessarily like kill your king or something, and you could also just disallow it completely. Um, so that's nice to have as well. There's a lot of small settings. We could get into a bunch of them, but I don't know if
Let's
that's
do
going to
it.
be
Yeah.
worth it. Uh,
Yeah,
one,
just take some brief looks at a couple of things, I'd
yeah.
say.
Another thing with the multiplayer setup is when you do select those kingdoms or those time periods, the time periods in essence fixate the map with regards to culture, religion, and the provinces that each nation owns. So those will all change depending on the time period you select. it also affects apparently in the diary they mentioned that the royal families are set at the start, and that is dependent on each time period as well. A feature that is exciting though is you can kind of select a specific province within a nation and then role play some quasi small nation. So for example, if you want to pick Paris as like a nation, then you can like pop out the province of Paris and play as Paris and conquer out the rest of France or something like that. So that's
It's like
allowed.
Paris becomes its own kingdom then.
Yeah, exactly. Um,
And adding to it, for especially for the multiplayer, is that it gets very very sandboxy, because you can set up completely your own experience, and you can decide on how many provinces in general and how many kingdoms there will be on the map. If someone may get a little more gold or a little less gold in the beginning, which only accounts for us real players, not for AI. AI settings are always the same. So this might give you a little head start or a little obstacle for the beginning.
yeah, yeah. Do you want to lead on to the dev stream questions, or are there any more comments that you want to make about the general what was shown to us with the multiplayer part 2? We've kind of touched on most of it. But as we were talking about this earlier before the stream, and just me and you privately, and we were talking how like the features that they've added in the multiplayer are very very engaging to the game, and we were discussing how like Knights of Honor 1 was its own game, and Knights of Honor 2, it's got so much more features on it that it's really, the game mechanics are a lot more developed and a lot more interesting, and it's going to be a good standalone game. That it's not just like a sequel to Knights of Honor 1 that's been what's it called, mapped, or just what's the word here?
Like technically redone.
Yeah, redone, or where they put new graphics on and then they called it a new game, right? It's Knights of Honor 2 is for sure
Yeah.
going to play very differently than Knights of Honor 1, and it's going to have, I think it will be just a superior game. I think they're bringing a lot to the table, just with these multiplayer features. Because you had like none of these in Knights of Honor 1, so they're adding so much to the game in terms of depth just through multiplayer that it's standalone just like that. So I'm really excited about that, and I think Sh0ppo, you are as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And just from the conversation that we had right before the stream, it just came to my mind that all these settings and the things you can tweak around, they talked on it on stream, and I think they also mentioned it in the dev diary. They want to make like almost all or maybe every player have a very good, or be able to have a very good experience with the game. And I think that that's what just came to my mind, that it adds a lot of long-term motivation. I don't know how you call it properly in English, to always start a new game. Okay, I want to do those settings. I want to play with
A lot of
friends that
replayability.
yeah, that don't know the game yet and are not too fond or not too too good at it at the current moment. So you can give them a head start. You can make it easier. You can say, okay, we just have not 500 provinces, we have only 20 provinces, and we just go for a halftime or 1 hour battle for the whole world. I mean, you can basically do everything, right?
Yeah, they
By the
gave a
way,
lot of features in this.
Beldrith is here.
Okay,
Beldrith, good
nice.
to
Welcome,
read you
Beldrith.
again. And
Uh,
welcome, B-Reactor.
one feature though that they mentioned that they don't have is spectator mode, and that was in the
Oh yeah,
questions.
true.
And I feel like that is one thing that is really necessary to good multiplayer games and competitive play as well.
That you need a spectator.
Yeah, Well, how do you how do you think about that? Feel about it?
I only know it from Bioreactor, who's in the chat right now. Because we watched some of our replay in Age of Empires 4 when we did battles against the AI or other players, mainly against the AI, and we rewatched it. Maybe that would be a feature, but that is kind of a spectator view. But for multiplayer games, I never really used it. I mean, you would use it for casting games,
Yes.
but I want to play the game on my own, honestly.
Sure, but
I don't want to be a
I think in
spectator.
like tournaments, there are going to be you want a host and you want people to engage with some of the battles during the tournament, and
I think
you know,
I think if
I
they
think that
see,
brings a lot to multiplayer and the community.
I can imagine that they will add it into the game a little later on.
I really
Maybe if
hope
they
they do.
see, yeah, maybe
I think it's
for
one of the
the
critical
first patch,
things.
or I don't know, because if they see, okay, people really like playing multiplayer, and they really there is a community that is active in
Oh, you
ready for some ever tournaments.
can you just repeat that very quickly? You broke up for a moment.
I broke up. Okay, yeah, basically that they will add it later when they see that there is an active community playing multiplayer and that the community likes multiplayer, and then they add it for making it accessible for
But don't you
tournaments,
think it's kind of
whatever.
like a prerequisite to getting that kind of community? Like,
I don't know. I think
you know,
they will. You would need it for esports or
yeah,
tournaments, but to check whether people like your multiplayer, they know it within 2 or 3 weeks. I think if people step into multiplayer and never come back to it, then
fair
well,
enough.
you got
Fair
a
enough.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. One,
But what do you think about it?
I think it's absolutely necessary if you want
Okay.
to develop a community that sticks around the game, because generally speaking, what I've seen in most games, or I guess that's just the games I play, to be honest. You could have different communities, but the games I've played, it's always competitive tournaments that
Hmm.
make a game last forever. Um, so I think you kind of need to design games close to that. Otherwise, you design a game that's so single player oriented and that it has no multiplayer,
Mm.
and that lasts in its own way, that people want like a sequel and another sequel and another sequel. I don't have an example off the top of my head, but I'm sure somebody would. Uh, but because this game does have multiplayer, I think it then puts itself into the basket of esports, and it needs to have a esports aspect in order to last long.
But I don't really see it in esports, honestly. I think
It's tough,
they
yeah.
have it ready. They have it ready for modding, which is very important. Which probably
Modding will bring it into
will
esports potentially.
keep it going. Yeah.
Anyways,
Beldrith is writing that if they see the game is being competitively played, they would probably add it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think you're right on that completely. And maybe it's a bit much to program. Like they were mentioning in the dev stream, like there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that they do, and depending on what we request as audience or people who want to see things in Knights of Honor 2, the tasks that we request might be immensely difficult for them to implement. They might have to, as they said, take down the foundation of the house and build from scratch again on the game
Mm.
code. So uh, maybe spectating mode is actually something like that, where they need to do a lot of deep dive coding, and that can take a long time. So they want to wait to see if it's worthwhile, anyways. Which I get. It
Yeah.
costs
Yeah.
benefit analysis there. But on that line of thought, so spectating mode I think is like important, and we'll see what happens in the future if it gets used or not. But I asked a previous question of whether there would be like what kind of voice or communication systems they had.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Now they said they don't like the idea of voice chat, which I think I kind of came over to their feelings about it, where they claim that most people on Discord or
Yeah.
TeamSpeak or Steam even people just chat through those systems instead of using the in-game systems. And I think they're right. I think the gaming community is drifting towards that.
Yeah. Agree.
But with text, I think they need text in the game to like secret messages, so you can text somebody, be like, "Yo, Sh0ppo, I need you to backstab Brad," you know. Like
Yeah.
these kind of messages need to happen, and I think you need to be able to set it up too that like only your
But
allies hear it, or even just a single player hears what you're texting. And how do you feel about that, Sh0ppo?
yeah, like I thought that they have it in it because from the games I play in multiplayer, they all have some kind of chat system in it. I almost feel like it's a prerequisite for multiplayer to have some kind of chat functionality.
They said they had text, but I don't know if they clarified if you can do like a private text or like
Okay, like direct messaging or within your team.
or within the team. Yeah,
I don't know how complicated it is to implement.
that should be simple. I imagine.
Yeah, I think it should be easy, and there should be frameworks available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's that question. There was okay. This one I definitely want to touch on. So someone suggested, are there going to be natural disasters in the game, or like nature effects, or just global effects? And so that could include like the plague, or winter, or the desert, or volcanoes, or earthquakes even. And all those I think are awesome ideas, and I would love to see in the future either the dev team make it a staple of the baseline game. Maybe what they should do is let modders do it first, and then see which ones are really popular and good, and then just base implement them. Just steal off the other people. They don't have to do all the work. Let us do some of the work.
Yeah, but I have mixed feelings about natural disasters in a game. Yeah.
I think it adds a nice flavor to it. Like, say you're about to attack somebody, but it's clearly the winter is coming in, and that like hits your armies really hard. Then you got to be like, oh shoot, I can't make the war now, and you have to like rethink how you're, adds flavor to the game.
I'm not sure. I don't know whether I recall it. I mean, there has already been a discussion about whether there is winter in the game, that people need more food, or that when there's snow, your army marches slower. I have no idea.
Yeah, that could have. Yeah. Oh, I love all the ideas.
Was this? Did we discuss it, or did I read it somewhere, or did I actually
I don't think you read
or write about it? I have no idea.
Was either from the community or us. I also think something like Black Plague would be really fun, because maybe that could be like a toggle on multiplayer, but like it could also be a necessity in multiplayer, because in a weird way it prevents a person from like say turtling, because if they turtle and their population gets really big, then all of a sudden the plague comes in, wipes them hard. And so, like, there might be the Black Plague might provide an incentive to kind of keep your population low and attack.
Okay, if it really gets implemented into the gameplay like this, then it's manageable. Then I like it. And if it's just some kind of luck or bad luck, then I don't like it.
Yeah, I feel you as well. Because it would suck if, like, in multiplayer, you're just like you get hit and nobody else gets it, and it's like, wow, I got punished for no reason.
It totally turns tides.
Yeah. But if you got punished because you were turtling and your population was like skyrocketing and you had all this income and you're just like sitting on one province or whatever, and you're not engaging combat, then I could see the plague being a tool to kind of change your gameplay.
I really like this idea. Yeah.
It would be fun. But anyways,
it would be manageable. It fits to the character of expansion.
Yeah.
Of Knights of Honor. Conflict. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring action to the game.
So I have three more questions left that we can talk about. One was they're a bit maybe less on topic. One was another question by me actually, and it was what's the hardest kingdom to play in the game if like as a multiplayer.
Oh yeah, yep.
And I think one of them suggested it was probably going to be like a single province as a pagan, because generally speaking, nobody likes the pagans.
Yeah,
Um,
and in the late period.
mhm. But they also mentioned like it really depends on the circumstances, how your uh, human players are interacting with you, and what kind of settings you have, and things like this. So, fair enough. Um, One question which I think was maybe important is, so you mentioned that you could edit or control the map setting of how you can declare war on other human players. So it can be
Yeah.
allowed right off the get go. It can be uh, disallowed, or it can be what's called like king limited. So basically, the number of generations of kings, and then after you get past a certain generation of kings, then it becomes allowed. And on the forums, this was posted by William Blake, of course, and he mentioned that, well, maybe potentially somebody can exploit this by suiciding their king, and then they can get to the war trigger faster. Now, the devs mentioned they didn't test it, but they mentioned that the game doesn't really work like that per se. You could try to do that, but the issue is you need to kind of marry your king and have children before you suicide him, because if you suicide your king right away, then you go into like a turmoil kingdom with no heir, and that's more
Yeah.
harmful than
Yeah.
good. Um, so you at least need to do this like marriage, children, then you can suicide. Marriage, children, then you can suicide. But that would only speed you up a bit. And as the devs also mentioned, if you're suiciding your king so fast, your king's not going to have these skills. And I guess potentially once you go to war, their king, even though they didn't go through generations as you did, will have more
Yeah.
skills than your king, and that might
I,
be a
r-
big disadvantage when you go to war.
I really liked this questions, and I put some thought in it because at first I didn't 100% get their reply to it, and then because even if you think about being a pagan, then you don't care about succession to the throne, because just one of your marshals will become the next king.
True.
That's easy. So that's a benefit for the pagans. But the thing is about the traditions. If your king dies and you don't can build, or if you exploit it and send him send him on a suicide mission, then there won't be any traditions in your kingdom, because he never survives long enough to really learn anything.
I thought. Wait, aren't traditions attached to the kingdom, not the king, though?
But you won't have any time to learn them. If you just use king, send them over to, like he said, to foreign walls and get them killed, send the next one, send the next one. That's like happening instantly, and you don't really put time into getting your king skilled.
Yeah, I know you don't put time into skilling your king, but I thought the kingdom traditions are separate. I don't know. We'd have to check on that.
But I think they talked about it, that some kind of the skills will get pushed on to the next generation. Some of them. And then about tradition, let me just check for a tradition. How do you like Beldrath? Do you recall how exactly we can get traditions? I am not 100% sure. Let me just check it. Okay, it's DevDiary 10. That's almost a year ago.
While you're doing that, let's see if there's anything I missed that we can talk about. Oh, they mentioned that there might be an additional multiplayer, just like a part 3 to multiplayer information. Um, so there could be another Dev Diary on this topic. Uh, Which I guess makes sense. They got a lot of feedback from the forums about what's going to be, or what people
Ah,
want to see and what they're implementing, and so they might go back to the drawing board on a couple things and just add them or take them away and then tell us. You found it now, Sh0ppo?
yeah, it is from DevDiary 10 traditions. I can put it in the chat. Then, okay, to each skill, there is a corresponding tradition, and similarly, adopting them requires spending some gold and books.
Yeah.
But that is the easier part. Or I'm quoting from the text. In order to gain a tradition, a kingdom must additionally have at least one knight that has mastered the corresponding skill, which means at level 3. See, that's what I meant. You have to get
Ah,
your
that's a
maybe
knight
your
though, not necessarily the king. So you could suicide your kings
yeah,
and level up your
but
knights.
but imagine if you need a new knight, then you need to spend money. If you're a pagan and your king dies, then one of your knights will become the next king.
Mm.
And for pagans in Knights of Honor 1, it was that in most cases it was a marshal, and if there isn't a marshal, then it will be somebody else from the court. So it always it costs you money to get a new to hire a new knight, which will slow your economy. Then when your king dies, the next marshal will become the king. So it's kind of tough, but it won't make sense. It will slow down your economy, and then you're in a position of being able to attack your enemies. But in the meanwhile, your economy and everything is so weak,
And this is the
especially
thing,
as a
right?
pagan. Then it makes no sense because pagans have not that powerful economy as the Catholic or Muslim countries do.
I also think that if you're doing this strategy, I'm going to assume there's ways to check the lineage of your like a ledger to check how many kings another country has. And if you're in
Mm.
multiplayer and you click on somebody else's country and you notice that they're killing their kings off fast, then that's obviously a red flag that they're going to go to war soon. Then as like just basic StarCraft thing, you build workers first. If you then you notice your opponent has been building units, then you build units to defend, and because you've built your economy just slightly more than them, you'll be able to successfully defend because you've caught their aggressive behavior before it
Yeah.
it, it it gets triggered. So if you watch people on the ledger, see how fast they're killing off their kings, and you notice they're doing that, they're going to be in a weaker state than you when they declare war on you, assuming you prep enough for that, right?
But just remember, let's talk it through on economy wise. On Knights of Honor 1, it costs you 1,000 gold to hire a new knight. 1,000 gold in the beginning that's a whole lot of money,
Yeah,
which you should spend on troops and buildings,
infrastructure. Yeah, yeah.
and not on hiring new knights to instantly kill them off.
Yeah, and castles will have their own defenses. Like it's not like at the start of the game every castle is defenseless. Yeah, defenseless. So you probably need a substantial army to engage. So
Mm.
if you bomb rush your kings, you probably still don't have a good enough army to actually engage and kill your opponents. I don't know. Well, these are questions
But
that we will eventually have to answer through repeat of multiplayer games.
yeah, maybe we should try it at some point.
Yeah. I think you broke up there. No, you're back. Good. We should probably call it a quits then. I think
I think so too.
that's more or less it for this latest Dev Diary, unless there's any last minute questions by our most beloved viewers or viewer.
So it will be hard to conquer a city for a while at the beginning. Yeah, Beldrath, I think so. I mean, it will not be as easy as it was in some cases in Knights of Honor
I
1.
suspect it won't be as easy
Yeah,
as it was in Knights of Honor 1.
yeah. What are you looking for?
Me? No, just putting back on the multiplayer part.
Okay.
Okay, then I forget our outro. Oh my god.
You forgot our
May the
outro?
sun always shine on all of you.
Yeah, thanks guys for sticking around. Take care.
Yeah. And till next
let the
time.
sun always shine on you. Yeah, till next time.
Bye.
See ya.